Alright guys, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about rod and reel selection for the beginner bass angler. This is a topic where when I first got started myself, I quickly became very overwhelmed. There's a lot of information on rod and reel selection. Like I said, I got overwhelmed and there was a point where I thought I needed, 8, 9, 10, 12 different setups just to start catching fish, and that's simply not true. The most important thing when you first get started with bass fishing is that you catch fish. And so today, I'm gonna recommend 2 setups that you can get started with today, and you are gonna start catching fish very quick with these 2 setups. These 2 setups are gonna be foundational. They're gonna allow you to fish almost every beginner technique you can hear of, and a lot of advanced techniques as well. But make no mistake, like I said, these are gonna be 2 setups that you will always be able to use. Even now that I've gotten some more specialized setups, I'm still, every time I go out fishing, using these 2 setups to catch fish. And I would say I've caught probably 80 to 90% of the bass I've caught so far on these 2 setups. I also know that your time is valuable, so if you don't have time or you don't want to watch the full video, here is the very short answer. I'm going to recommend a 6'9" to 7 foot spinning reel setup. I'm going to recommend a medium power fast action rod tip, and I'm going to recommend a size 3000 or 3500 reel. As far as the baitcaster setup I'm going to recommend something in the 7 foot range. I'm going to recommend a medium heavy power and a fast action tip. And then I'm going to recommend a reel with a 7:5:1 gear ratio. Now, for those of you who want to stick around and hear me go into more detail about why this is what I'm going to recommend, stay tuned. For those of you who just wanted the short answer, I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, so the first rod and reel setup that we're going to go into more detail on is the spinning reel setup. And guys, I've caught so many fish on this setup. This is probably the setup that I've caught the most fish on since I've started fishing. This is going to be for your more finesse or like stealthy fishing techniques, so you'll be able to throw a lot of good beginner setups with this, such as the Ned rig, wacky rig, and the drop shot, plus a ton of other ones. So we're going to go into more detail on this one, and I'll tell you, more info on the specs. First, let's go over that 6'9" to 7 foot length. This is going to vary depending on what you're doing. If you're fishing from a boat, like a big boat, or you're fishing from land where you have a lot of room, go for the 7 foot. It's gonna give you more stuff to work with, longer casting distance, stuff like that. If you fish primarily out of a kayak like me, space and maneuverability are gonna be a big priority for you, so I opt for a little bit shorter of a rod there. Now, let's talk about power. Medium power for this rod is gonna be perfect. Power, if you don't know, is basically the bendability of your rod. It's going to be, how much it bends whenever you go to set that hook. This setup right here, medium power, is going to be perfect for that. Action, you want fast. The action just determines how soon you feel the bite, and for this setup, you're going to want to feel that bite very soon. And then reel size. 3000 to 3500. This is just pretty standard. The main thing that reel size is going to determine is how much line you can fit on the reel, and this is just a really good size. It's not going to be too heavy or too bulky, but you're still going to be able to fit plenty of line, so you're going to be able to cast out there really far. So the next setup I'm going to recommend is this bait casting setup, and this is going to get you started with the Texas rig, smaller jigs, a lot of topwater stuff, jerk baits, even some bigger swim baits. So why 7 foot? Pretty much for the same reasons I recommended with the other setup. This is just a really good length to get started, and as you start to get more advanced, you might change the length, but honestly, 7 foot is a good range to be in for a lot of techniques. Medium heavy power. This is gonna be a little bit more important for this setup. This is not a finesse setup, so you wanna have a little bit more power so that when you go to set that hook, you've actually got some power and not as much bend in the pole, so you can really drive that hook into the fish's mouth when you set that hook. Fast action. This is just really good for feeling bites, guys. When you're fishing that Texas rig or that jig and you're on the bottom, or you're doing that jerk bait and that fish is kind of tapping it, you want to be able to feel that tap, tap, tap on your line. And with a fast action, you are going to feel every bite. And lastly, there is that 7:5:1 gear ratio on the reel for the bait casting setup. 7:5:1 is a really good ratio. You're gonna be able to reel in pretty fast. You're gonna be able to cover a lot of water. You'll notice when you switch to the bait casting setup that you'll bring in line a lot quicker than with that spinning reel. If you go too high, a lot of these setups, as a beginner, one of the biggest problems I see is people fishing too fast. So 7:5:1, it's gonna give you the ability to reel in fast, cover a lot of water, but you're not gonna be fishing so fast that you're just going too fast for the fish to be interested in what you're throwing. All right, guys, so that's it. Those are the 2 setups I'm gonna recommend every beginner start with. Like I said, the vast majority of the fish I've caught have been on those 2 setups. Even now, that I'm finally starting to get more specialized setups, you know, for certain fishing techniques. Every fishing trip I go on, those two setups are coming with me, and I don't think that's ever gonna change. It's just a staple. So that's why I recommend it as a beginner. Fishing can be complicated in the beginning when you're trying to figure out what to get, but like I said earlier, the most important thing is that you're catching fish. These are gonna get you started. These are gonna get you catching fish. I fished with these two setups primarily for a year before I got anything else. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree. I know everyone's kind of got their own opinions on fishing and rod and reel selection. That's just my opinion. I like to keep it simple, especially when you're first getting started, because like I said, if you get started and you're not catching fish, you're probably not gonna stick around in the hobby for too long. Let me know down below if you've also got any questions, or if you feel like I didn't go into enough detail on anything that you're wanting more questions or answers on. So yeah, leave a comment below and I will do my best to get to every single question. If this was at all helpful for you, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. I've got content like this coming out all the time, and I also got a lot of just fishing content, like adventure content. So appreciate you watching. Catch you next time. Have a good day.